First contact crisis. Commander Elena Reyes stood motionless on the bridge of the EDF Resilience, Earth's flagship defender. Through the main viewport, she watched as 7 massive vessels of unknown design emerged from what appeared to be tears in the fabric of space itself. The alien ships dwarfed humanity's most impressive vessels, each one easily 5 times the size of the Resilience. "Analysis," she ordered, her voice steady despite the cold knot forming in her stomach. Lieutenant Cato's fingers danced across his console. "Unknown composition, Commander. Energy readings off the charts. Their propulsion system operates on principles we've never seen before." "They're hailing us," Communications Officer Patil announced, her eyes wide. "Universal translators are attempting to process." Elena straightened her uniform. Humanity's first contact with an alien civilization was happening on her watch. "Put it through." The main screen flickered, revealing a humanoid figure with iridescent blue skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. When it spoke, its mouth didn't move. The words simply manifested in Elena's mind. "Humans of Earth, we are the Arcturus Collective. Your species has been observed and found wanting. Your primitive technology and warlike tendencies make you unsuitable for galactic citizenship. Surrender your planet and resources. Integration will be painless." Elena maintained her composure. "This is Commander Elena Reyes of Earth Defense Force. We welcome peaceful contact with your civilization, but we will not surrender our home. Perhaps we can discuss." "Discussion is inefficient," the alien interrupted. "You have 6 Earth hours to prepare for integration. Resistance is inadvisable." The transmission cut off abruptly. "Battle stations," Elena ordered. "Alert all EDF vessels and planetary defense systems. We need options." For the next 3 hours, Earth's military and scientific leaders convened in emergency session. The alien vessels had positioned themselves in high orbit around Jupiter, apparently waiting for their deadline to expire. "Their weapons systems make ours look like slingshots," Admiral Chen reported grimly. "The energy readings suggest they could crack our planet's crust with sustained bombardment." "What about diplomacy?" asked the UN Secretary General. "They've ignored all subsequent hailing attempts," Elena replied. "They're not interested in talking." Dr. Okafor, Earth's leading xenotechnologist, shook her head. "Based on the scans we've taken, their shield technology is generations beyond ours. Our weapons couldn't penetrate them even if we concentrated all our firepower on a single ship." The room fell silent as the gravity of the situation sank in. Humanity faced an existential threat, and they had just hours to find a solution. "Commander Reyes," the Admiral said finally, "you're our foremost tactical expert. What are our options?" Elena had been studying the data streams, her mind racing through and discarding scenarios. What they needed wasn't conventional military tactics. Those would fail spectacularly against such advanced technology. They needed something the aliens wouldn't expect. "I've got this," she said quietly. The room turned to her, eyebrows raised at her apparent confidence in the face of near-certain defeat. "The aliens have positioned themselves near Jupiter," Elena explained, pointing to the tactical display. "That gives us an opportunity. Jupiter's magnetosphere is the strongest in our solar system. With enough electromagnetic pulse devices positioned correctly, we might be able to create a resonance cascade that temporarily disrupts their shields." "But we don't have weapons that could exploit such a brief window," General Harris objected. Elena's eyes gleamed. "We're not going to use weapons. We're going to use Jupiter itself." What followed was a flurry of activity as Elena outlined her plan. It was audacious, relying on principles of physics that were theoretical at best. They would need to reprogram orbital mining charges, reconfigure space tugs, and precisely calculate Jupiter's gravitational inflection points. 5 hours after the alien ultimatum, 20 unimpressive Earth vessels approached Jupiter, seemingly on an intercept course with the alien armada. The alien ships didn't even power up their weapons. The human vessels were too small to register as threats. "They're ignoring us," Lieutenant Kaito reported. "Just as we predicted." "Perfect," Elena said. "Deploy the mining charges according to the calculated coordinates." The Earth vessels released hundreds of mining charges, devices designed to break apart asteroids for resource extraction, at specific points around Jupiter's upper atmosphere. Then, on Elena's command, they detonated simultaneously. The effect was subtle at first. Jupiter's already turbulent atmosphere began to churn more violently as the precisely placed explosions created resonance patterns in the gas giant's magnetosphere. Phase 2, Elena ordered. The Earth vessels deployed specialized electromagnetic emitters, each calibrated to a specific frequency. The combined effect amplified Jupiter's natural radio emissions 1,000-fold, creating an invisible tsunami of electromagnetic energy that washed over the alien vessels. On the main screen, Elena watched as the alien ship's shields flickered and destabilized, caught in the unexpected electromagnetic storm. "Now, Phase 3, she commanded. The Earth vessels launched their payloads, not missiles or bombs, but specially designed gravitational anchors. These devices, originally created for stabilizing asteroids during mining operations, latched onto the hulls of the alien ships and activated simultaneously. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The gravitational anchors created localized disruptions that interfered with the aliens' artificial gravity systems. 5 of the 7 massive ships began to list dangerously, pulled toward Jupiter's crushing gravity well. The alien communication channel suddenly reopened. "What is this?" the four-eyed being demanded, its mental voice tinged with alarm. "Your primitive technology can't." "This is Commander Reyes," Elena interrupted. "Your ships are currently being drawn into Jupiter's gravity well. In approximately 12 minutes, you'll pass the point of no return. Even with your advanced propulsion, the gravitational forces will tear your vessels apart." "Impossible," the alien insisted, though the background behind it showed chaos as crew members rushed to stabilize their vessel. "Not impossible, just unexpected," Elena replied calmly. "I'm willing to provide the resonance frequency that will allow you to recalibrate your shields and escape, in exchange for a ceasefire and real diplomatic negotiations." There was a long pause as the aliens seemed to confer with others off-screen. Elena watched the tactical display, where the alien vessels continued their dangerous drift toward Jupiter. "Terms accepted," the alien finally transmitted. "Provide the frequency data." Elena nodded to Lieutenant Patel, who transmitted the necessary information. Within minutes, the alien vessels had stabilized and moved to a safer orbit. "The Arcturus Collective has miscalculated," the alien acknowledged when communications resumed. "Our preliminary assessments of human capabilities were insufficient." "A common mistake," Elena replied, "judging a species by its technological development rather than its adaptability." "We would reconsider diplomatic relations," the alien offered. "Your solution was unexpected. In 10,000 cycles, no species has used a planetary body as a weapon against our vessels." "We didn't use Jupiter as a weapon," Elena corrected. "We used it as a tool. There's a difference." The alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Indeed, perhaps there is more to learn about humans than our initial survey suggested." As diplomatic channels opened and tension slowly eased, Admiral Chen approached Elena on the bridge. "How did you know that would work?" he asked quietly. Elena smiled slightly. "I didn't, but when conventional options fail, humans have always been good at making the impossible possible." "I got this," the Admiral echoed her earlier words with newfound appreciation. "Exactly," Elena replied. "Throughout human history, those 3 words have preceded some of our greatest achievements and most unlikely victories. It's not arrogance, it's a promise to ourselves that we'll find a way, no matter what." As she gazed out at the massive alien vessels, now holding position respectfully distant from Earth, Elena knew that humanity had just earned itself a second chance. The Arcturus collective had arrived expecting easy conquest and instead discovered that humans were unlike any species they had encountered before. The real test would come next, establishing a lasting peace with beings so different from themselves. But as Elena prepared for the first formal diplomatic meeting, she felt a familiar sense of determined confidence. They had this. The Alliance test. 6 months after the Jupiter incident, humanity's relationship with the Arcturus collective had evolved from tense standoff to cautious alliance. The exchange of knowledge and technology had accelerated Earth's development by decades, while the collective had gained valuable insights into human adaptability and problem-solving. Commander Elena Reyes, now serving as humanity's primary liaison with the collective, stood beside Ambassador Zix Nautis on the observation deck of Harmony Station, a joint human-Arcturan facility orbiting Earth's moon. "The Council remains impressed with human ingenuity," Zix Nautis commented, its 4 eyes blinking in the pattern Elena had come to recognize as indicating pleasure. "Your species accomplishes remarkable feats despite technological limitations." "We've had plenty of practice overcoming obstacles," Elena replied. "It's practically our specialty." The peaceful moment was interrupted as Lieutenant Patel rushed onto the observation deck, her expression grave. "Commander, Ambassador, we've received an emergency transmission from the collective Deep Space Monitoring Station at Proxima Centauri." The main screen activated, showing a fragmented transmission. An Arcturan officer appeared, the background behind them filled with flashing emergency lights. "Void hunters, unprecedented numbers, defenses failing, require immediate." The transmission cut off abruptly. Zix Nautis's skin paled to a light lavender, a sign of extreme distress among Arcturans. "Void hunters," the ambassador whispered, "the ancient enemy." "I need context," Elena said firmly. "They are nomadic predators that consume all organic and technological resources in their path," Zix Nautis explained. "The collective encountered them centuries ago. We believe them confined to the Andromeda galaxy after our last conflict. And now they're at Proxima Centauri." Elena asked. "That's less than 5 light years from Earth. If they have breached the containment zone, both our civilizations are in grave danger," the ambassador confirmed. "The Proxima station houses our early warning network for this sector. If it falls..." Elena didn't need the ambassador to finish. If the station fell, Earth would be vulnerable. The Void Hunters would have a clear path to both human and Arcturan worlds. Within hours, an emergency response fleet was assembled, 3 Arcturan warships and 2 human vessels, including the upgraded EDF Resilience under Elena's command. The Arcturan ships were formidable, equipped with technology that dwarfed human capabilities. By comparison, the human vessels seemed almost primitive. During the planning session aboard the Arcturan flagship, Science Director Kel Vorn outlined their approach. "The Void Hunters employ living technology that adapts to conventional attacks," Kel Vorn explained, displaying holographic images of biomechanical constructs that resembled massive predatory insects. "Our strategy will be to engage from maximum distance, using quantum disruptors, then retreat and regroup as necessary." Elena studied the tactical display, noting the predetermined attack vectors and fallback positions. The plan was methodical and conservative, typical of Arcturan military doctrine. "With respect," she said, "this approach gives the Void Hunters time to adapt. If they're as evolutionarily advanced as you say, they'll develop countermeasures before we complete the second attack run." Kel Vorn's 4 eyes blinked in the pattern indicating confusion. "Our simulations indicate this is the optimal approach to minimize casualties. Sometimes the safest approach isn't the most effective," Elena countered. "I have an alternative strategy." The Arcturan officers looked skeptical as Elena outlined her plan. It involved using the human vessels in ways that violated standard operating procedures, exploiting weaknesses in the Void Hunters' sensory systems, and employing mining technology in unorthodox ways, similar to what they had done at Jupiter. "Impossible," Kel Vorn declared. "The risk factors exceed acceptable parameters by 340%. That's precisely why it might work, Alina argued. The Void Hunters have fought the Collective before. They'll anticipate your standard tactics. They won't expect this. Ambassador Zixnatus, who had been silent throughout the exchange, suddenly spoke. The human says, "I got this," the ambassador observed, using the untranslated English phrase that had become almost mythological among Arcturans since the Jupiter incident. Perhaps we should listen. The journey to Proxima Centauri took only hours using the Arcturan ship's advanced propulsion. When they arrived, the situation was even worse than feared. The space around the station swarmed with Void Hunters, living ships that resembled massive insects with metallic exoskeletons. The station itself still stood, but its defensive shields were visibly faltering. Their numbers are greater than anticipated, Kelvorn reported grimly, revising survival probability downward to 23%. Numbers don't determine outcomes, Alina replied, already implementing her plan. Lieutenant Cato, begin the resonance scans. The human vessels moved into position, using specialized sensors originally designed for deep-core mining operations. These sensors mapped the unique vibrational frequencies of the Void Hunters' biotech exoskeletons. Interesting, Dr. Chen, the Resilience's chief science officer, reported. Their exoskeletons vibrate at consistent frequencies, likely a form of communication. If we could disrupt that, exactly what I was thinking, Alina confirmed. Prepare the sonic mining charges for deployment with modified frequency patterns. Meanwhile, the Arcturan vessels engaged the outer perimeter of Void Hunters according to the original plan, drawing the creatures' attention while the human ships worked unnoticed. Ready for Phase 2, Alina announced. Ambassador, please have your ships fall back on my mark. Though clearly uncomfortable with deviating from their tactical doctrine, the Arcturans complied. As their ships withdrew, the Void Hunters pursued, exactly as Alina had predicted. Now, she commanded. The human vessels deployed hundreds of modified sonic mining charges, devices normally used to shatter specific mineral compositions with precisely calibrated sonic frequencies. Now reprogrammed to match the Void Hunters' exoskeletal resonance, they detonated in a carefully orchestrated sequence. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Void Hunters didn't explode or break apart. Instead, they seized up, their biological systems thrown into chaos by the conflicting resonance patterns. Unable to maintain their complex biomechanical functions, they drifted helplessly in space. Phase 3, Alina ordered. The Resilience deployed its secret weapon, a hastily modified communications array that broadcast the same disruptive frequencies as the mining charges, but at much greater intensity and range. The remaining Void Hunters that hadn't been caught in the initial attack suddenly found themselves paralyzed, their organic technology failing as the broadcast disrupted their internal systems. It's working, Lieutenant Cato reported, unable to keep the amazement from his voice. On the tactical display, the swarm of Void Hunters that had seemed so overwhelming minutes ago now drifted harmlessly, their threat neutralized not by overwhelming firepower, but by exploiting a biological weakness no one had previously identified. The Arcturan vessels moved in cautiously, using their quantum disruptors to eliminate the immobilized hunters one by one. Ambassador Zixnatus contacted Alina as the last of the creatures was destroyed. Commander Reyes, the Collective underestimated humans once again. This victory defies all probability calculations. That's what humans do best, Alina replied with a small smile. We defy expectations. The rescue team that boarded the Proxima station found the defenders alive, but in desperate condition. The station's commander, a veteran Arcturan officer, greeted Alina with the four-eyed equivalent of astonishment. How did you defeat them? The commander asked. Our most advanced weapons barely slowed them down. We didn't try to overpower them, Alina explained. We observed them, found a weakness, and exploited it with tools we already had. In the aftermath, as repair crews worked to restore the damaged station, Ambassador Zixnatus sought out Alina in a quiet corner of the command center. The council has studied the phrase, "I got this" extensively since our first encounter, the ambassador said. "We believed it was merely a cultural idiom, but now I understand it represents something more profound." "What do you mean?" Elena asked. "When humans say, 'I got this,' it is not a statement of fact, but a declaration of intent," Zixnatus observed. "It does not mean you already possess the solution. It means you commit yourself to finding one, no matter how impossible the circumstances appear." Elena nodded. "That's a good way to put it. Throughout our history, humans have faced extinction-level threats many times. Disease, climate change, war. Each time, someone has stood up and said, 'I got this,' and then worked to make the impossible possible. The collective has existed for millennia," the ambassador said. "We have accumulated vast knowledge and developed extraordinary technology. But in our long existence, we have lost something your species possesses in abundance: the ability to imagine solutions that exist outside established parameters." "That's why this alliance matters," Elena replied. "You have the technological capability. We have the adaptability. Together, we're stronger than either of us alone." As they gazed out at the stars, the same stars that had once seemed so distant to humanity and were now within reach, Elena felt a sense of profound optimism. The road ahead would not be easy. The Void Hunters were just one of many threats lurking in the vast darkness between stars. But with each challenge, humanity would do what it had always done: face the impossible and find a way through. Because when humans say, "I got this," the battle is already won, not because victory is certain, but because failure is not an option they're willing to accept.